What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo,
And I'm Stephen Rambola.
and we're excited to be back with you. It's officially December, Steve. We've
Woo.
officially moved into Christmas season, which is, some say the most wonderful time of year. I've heard
So,
that once or twice.
once or twice.
I've heard it. Yeah. So, I think we have a great show lined up for you guys. We're going to be talking about some really important topics, I think, especially when it comes to our generation. And I think this is going to be a really important show. But before we get into that, as always, we're going to talk a little bit about our lives and what's going on. And Stephen, I know that something big just happened for you. So why don't you let the people know a little bit?
Yes. So the big thing that happened for me was that the other day I was doing a little look-see online, checking what I got to check, the important things.
As one does.
As one does. And I'm a little upset that this is the big thing that happened for me. Nobody made it clear to me that last episode when I tried to point at my name, that the image is flipped and I pointed at nothing. And it was really devastating. No,
Yeah,
that did happen. That did happen. But the big thing that happened for me,
I should have been better, Steve.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we slip, we fall, we pick each other up. That's what we do. All seriousness, the big thing that did happen for me, I did receive my first acceptance into a law school, beautiful, sunny San Diego, California.
I wish I had the confetti bomb to pop.
Yeah. So that was a big moment for me. I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of phone calling, and there's still some people I got to share the good news with. People have been a big part of this journey for me. And like you said, the first of many, they're just going to start rolling in, so we're just waiting. We're waiting on it.
Yeah.
What a way to start
like
December.
I said to you like I said to you when you first found out, and I feel like it was this very similar conversation that we had when I first heard. I think my first law school was Rutgers. Like, at least now, if anything else, you're going to law school, right? Like, you have the acceptance, you made it, you're in, and at this point, everything else is just added on. So that's all that matters. Like, you're in.
We're in, and it's crazy to me too, because on a philosophical note, right? Like I'm never just a shallow guy. If you put me in a body of water, I'm going for the deep end, right? So for me, it was really rewarding, especially to share that with you, like before anybody else, because this is a journey that you and I started together, and like it's as much my journey, like it's our journey. I'm just on my path. You know what I mean?
Right. It's parallel paths.
Yeah.
Of the same.
So it was really special to be able to share that with you, and then now we sit down and we get to do this other thing that we love every week, and it was just a really affirming moment to know that, I'm turning out okay. I'm turning out all right. We're doing the right things.
We all knew you would.
Yeah, we all knew
you would turn out all right. But I know you're going to ask me about what's going on with me. I just want to give a little bit of a preview. I think that is something that we'll talk more about. That the fact that you and my relationship, or however the proper grammatic way to say that, our relationship is a good point and a good microcosm to the biggest story that we're going to talk about today, which is the epidemic of loneliness, which we'll get into in a couple of minutes. And I think that we offer sort of a real life anecdotal sort of way to escape that, and it'll be something that we definitely talk more about later in the episode. But before we get into that, I'll talk a little bit about something you have to look forward to now, which is how you approached it when you called me, because I was working on studying for finals for my first semester.
Yes, the 1L.
Yeah, the 1L finals, and it's tough, man. It's just a lot of practice exams. You got to carve out like 2 hours just to take a practice exam and then go over it. I have a study group later today, which is going to be fun. I think that'll be a nice way to bounce ideas off of each other. I snuck into a study room today to do this show because these are hard to come by right now. So I kind of found one that's open for exactly an hour. So I snuck in, and yeah, so it's a hectic time here at the law school. It's a lot of people stressed out. You feel the tension in the air, but I think everybody is very excited to be moving on. I think most people have this idea. It's like, look, at this point, I'll study, I'll work on my technique and form of issue spotting and stuff, but I just want it to be over and get it done with. And I think everybody is sort of getting ready for just that Christmas break, that slow down, take a deep breath, just to get it all started again next semester.
I believe it, man. Now let me ask you a question here. So again, you can provide insight to this. I know there's a certain curriculum for your first year of law school, right? So as this semester is closing for you, do you know what you have to look forward to in terms of curriculum next semester? And what's that looking like?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And every law school does it slightly different. So sometimes maybe you'll take your torts class in the second semester or whatever. So for us, our first semester is civil procedure, torts, and criminal law. And then our second, and a legal writing, a legal research class, and a public or professional development class. And then the second semester for us is constitutional law, contracts, and property, with another legal writing class. But that one's more focused, like next semester's legal writing is more focused on oral writing, writing for
Okay, writing to
presentation.
speak. That's cool.
Right.
That's
And
really
legal
cool.
research again. Yeah. And
Um,
then legal research and public professional development again. So yeah, so exciting. And then there's also an elective at Villanova for your second semester. So my elective is going to be at this point regulations.
oh, very fun. Mr.
Oh, it's
Admin
so
Law
fun.
over there.
Well, I decided with regulations because there were three options. One was like a intro to business law class, which I thought, that could be helpful, but I thought regulations had a larger array of where it would be helpful
Yeah.
in any direction I want to go. And then the other one was a law and justice class, which was a philosophy course, which I'm super interested in and I would love to take, but that's pretty much all I did as an undergraduate and master's student. So I was like, I'll give that to
Yeah.
other students that might, I'll give my what would be my seat to somebody else that might need that background a little bit more than I do. Although I would love that class, as you know, Stephen. But
Yeah. I think you do really well in that. I mean, you're going to do well in all the classes, but that one in particular,
well,
that's
we'll
that's
see.
bread and butter.
Right, right. So yeah, so that's a little bit about what's going on. We're just trying to make it through. Finals start next week. I only have three major finals, so uh, everything else, all my other classes are done.
And when's the last day of your semester?
Well, technically, like the last day was last Tuesday, but the last day of finals is, I think, Wednesday the 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so
Yeah,
the
Wednesday the
finals.
14th, or it's either the 14th or the 15th.
So you have a long stretch at the finals. I know for a lot of people, it's normally like a little 1-2, buckle my shoe. It's a week and we're out. Seems like you got to drag through this, which I'm sure is affording you enough time to reflect on this first semester. This is a big question, and I don't think I need the answer now. Maybe we can make it like a cliffhanger. But I think next week I want to start the show as that time is approaching. You're in the sweet spot. You got some finals under your belt. It's about to be over. Next week, I want to open the show and I want you to take a few minutes and give us like the nugget of wisdom, like the biggest takeaway for you personally from this first semester of law school. So I just want to throw that in the back of your brain to just add to all the things that you have to think about, obviously. But I think it would be
Yeah,
interesting to talk
we
about.
could get we can get into that more next week. But I'll say at this point right now, it's just kind of like, um, put your head and your nose to the grindstone and sort of do what you have to do. Don't half-ass it. Don't second guess it. Just kind of do what you know you're supposed to do and what you have to do. But yeah.
It's powerful.
All right. So we're going to move on to our first story, which we sort of hinted at before. And sorry if my voice is a little lower. I am in the library, and we just did have to cut it for a little break because I got in a little bit of trouble for being a little too loud, so I'm trying to keep it even here. Hopefully, I'm not super, super light. Hopefully, our production guy Jacob can bring my voice up a little bit, so that's not super loud. But anyway, um, the first story we're going to talk about is an epidemic that has gone on across our country, and it's been going on for a long time. It's not just something that started, you know, uh, a lot of people say this started with COVID, but this has been going on long before COVID, and that is an epidemic of loneliness that's going on in our country. And I'm not going to go through all of the statistics. All of the links are in our bio. You can look them all up and sort of play with the data yourself. But a couple of things that I do want to note is that um, in Gen Z, 79% of Gen Zers describe themselves as feeling lonely a lot of the time or most of the time. 71% of millennials. And that's compared to about 50% of boomers, right? So the younger generations are feeling lonelier. And the biggest point in where you saw the decline is about what, at this point, maybe 10, 15 years ago, the advent of the iPhone. The thing that has connected people more than anything else on this planet has brought us further together at the end of the day, at least in feeling of loneliness. One other thing, and I kind of want your take on this because I know this wasn't true for me when I was in high school, but they've been tracking this data from 12th graders going back to the 1970s. And in the 1970s, 52% of 12th graders said that after school, every day, they would spend time with their friends, right? By 2017, that was down to 28%. In the 90s, they were tracking it with eighth graders and 10th graders, and it was right around that above 50, maybe high 40s%. And it's even lower than the 28% for seniors in high school. And you're talking about, obviously, then the pandemic hit, so that makes people even more removed from each other. And you're talking about in the same time, all Americans are spending more time alone. And then we wonder why we have anxiety problems, depression problems. We have physical and mental health problems. So that's just the overview. And I kind of want to hear your take on that, and we'll have a little bit discussion afterwards.
Yeah. So I'll say this to begin with. I've been in my life and experiences very blessed to have a tight knit community and great friends who are accessible, and we all make that time for each other. So I would say, especially with regard to like that 2017 statistic and talking about seniors in high school, right? That's a year before I graduate. And I remember my favorite part every day of graduating high school, or that senior year for me, was I would get out of class, I would walk to my car, and me and all my friends would meet in the parking lot, and it's like, what are we doing today? So I grew up in a place, as did you, where we kind of had that connection, and it was very easy to make time with each other, very easy to make those plans. That being said, loneliness, um, I think it can be misconstrued in a way, and this is what I would harp on as the important thing, is just because you're around people doesn't mean that somebody doesn't feel that loneliness. You can be lonely in a room full of friends, and combating that and digging deep into the issues that cause those feelings is a worthwhile discussion that, like you said, I'm ready to have. I find it interesting, like you said, the little magic device that we have here. I really see a lot of people now, especially now post pandemic, kind of lost in there. And I would err on the side of confident when I say that I agree that the advent of those devices and interconnectivity, constant communication are all things that, prima facie, the legal term there, um,
On
seem to
its
be,
face.
yes, seem to be great for developing friendships, maintaining these connections. But in reality, what's lost through this is emotion, right? Depth of emotion. I can text you and this happens all the time. I was talking to one of our mutual friends about a relationship situation, and he was like, "Oh, this person said this, this, and this, so it must mean this." And I said, "You have no idea the inflection in somebody's tone, the delivery, the pitch of their voice. All There's so many dynamic parts to conversation and communication that convey feelings that are really, in my opinion, what develop relationships that get lost in here. So now we have a generation of kids, us included, who I would say we're on the cusp, who communicate in what, in my opinion, is a really inauthentic way. A text message is never going to make you feel the way that a phone call is going to feel, and a phone call is never going to make you feel the way that your best friend knocking on your door at 3:45 the afternoon after school is going to make you feel. So it seems like the closer we get, the further apart we are, as cliche as that is. And I don't know what the solution is. I think about this all the time, right? And I'm going to bounce back to you a question on this, because I was walking in Walmart the other day, right? And this is a big topic of conversation at work for me, because like I said, I agree that the technology has had this negative impact on loneliness. I was walking through Walmart and I saw a gift set, and it was a content creator gift set. Like, to me, it equated to, like, when I was a kid, I was a big Magic fan. I feel like every young boy has a phase where they like Magic, and it's like getting a Magic kit, right? And it's like got the ball and cups and the handkerchief, and it's like, this is a fun little thing that, like, you might think you want to do as a job, but you grow up and you realize, unless you're David Blaine, you're not going to make money being a magician. You know what I mean? And I saw it, and it was a content creator kit, and it had like one of these, like a tripod for the phone. It had a ring light. It had like a little handbook on like how to edit, and it was like, all you need is a cell phone. And I looked at it, and I had this old guy moment in my head where I was like, why is this something I would give my kids so they could just get sucked deeper into this world? And let's not even talk about the images associated, or the issues associated with the way that it affects your self-image, to see yourself all the time. That's not something that our parents grew up with. You want to talk about loneliness, something that feeds into loneliness is insecurity. So you're constantly seeing your image, your presence compared to people who might have more resources, might not have as many resources. Like, there's so many issues that contribute to this feeling of loneliness. And I want to clarify, for me, loneliness is, like I said, you could be around people and be lonely. It's I would even call it like an emptiness inside. Like, you're not getting the things that you as a person need, whatever they are, out of the relationships, whether they be in real life or digitally. So I want to know your thoughts on how it's affecting, like, how do we stop it from continuing? Because for me, the like I said, the clearest example in real life is, like, we can't be encouraging kids to think that it's okay to have a job where all you do is play on this all day. It's viable now. It's fast money. It's cool. You get the guys like the Mr. Beasts, right, who have put in work, built a brand, made something amazing here. But your average Joe Schmo who's posting TikToks every once in a while, but comes home and is dealing with these feelings of loneliness, emptiness, constantly being compared to other people. Is that something we want to foster in our children? Obviously not.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with most of what you said, especially, yeah. I don't think that we should be fostering telling your kids, get sucked into your phone, go on Instagram, go on TikTok, go on Snapchat. Like, I think that we all baseline understand that these things are not good, especially for young people, especially for young girls. We know Instagram knows that, and they've admitted it. Like, our product is bad for young girls. Our product, and TikTok is the same way. And I think that
Yep.
there's this idea of sort of creating the forever consumer, the perfect consumer, keeping them on your platform, keeping them looking at your platform for the ad content and so on and so forth, and selling these things, creating more content creators so that you can get more ad revenue, so that more people are using the product. It's all a business at the end of the day. So where I think personally, where it comes down to is the first place is your family. So we, you and I, luckily came from very good families, very close families, and a lot of people don't have that. So I think your first inclination is, if you are a parent and coming from somebody that doesn't have kids, but grew up with parents, um, make that time to make those genuine connections with your children, right? Every day at dinner, nobody was on their phone in my house, right? We sat down and we spoke to each other. I think, like, you're right, you could be in a room full of people and feel lonely because there's no genuine connection there. I think the first thing you have to learn is know who your friends are, right? You're not going to feel lonely if you have genuine, good friendship with other people. And so make that connection, find those people that are going to be your genuine friends. And what is a genuine friend? A genuine friend is somebody that you can share bad news with and good news with, and they'll appropriately respond to both of those things. And they'll be there and lift you up when you're down and not drag you down when you're up. They're going to be somebody who is going to support you while you're up and help you get up when you're down, right? It's this idea of doing all that you can to not only be genuine yourself, but surround yourself with as many genuine people as you can. And the internet isn't genuine. So everybody that has their internet friends, oh, well, I'm always talking to people on Snapchat. I'm always talking to people on Twitch. I have this community and that community. That's not genuine. That's not real life. There is a time and a place for that, and there's good things and bad things with that, right? Like, I played video games online with my friends, but we also hung out in life, in real life. You need to feel people, touch people, hear actual voice face to face. Um, and I think that that's the biggest thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist kind of guy. I really try and play things like as about down the middle as I can, but I genuinely believe that there is a push from, I'm not going to say like a collective, conspiracy per se, but sort of an idea in business, and it makes sense from a business. Keep people at home, keep people in their pods, keep people online, buy things, online shop, be with your friends online, enter the metaverse, all of these types of things. And that is going to just completely cripple our generation and generations to come, because human beings are an inherently social creature. We need to be around people. We need to have those genuine connections. When we were living as hunter-gatherers, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we were in close, tight-knit tribes that you needed each other. You relied on each other. And at the end of the day, we still need that. We aren't as evolved as we think we are.
Yep.
So I'm not saying there's an evil cabal out there trying to keep us down, but I think that from a business strategy, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't disagree with any of that. There's one thing that I want to, you said something that sparked my interest and I made a little note on it. And I'm curious to talk briefly about what you think the effect on it is. The other thing that I think is missing because of the way that technology's advanced and, sort of influenced the development of certain relationships with people, and not just with people, I'll say with things also, is that there is this underlying sense of everything that you do online has kind of forced this desire for things to be immediate, right? I can go on Amazon right now and I can buy a pair of shoes that, again, let's extrapolate this. 8 years ago, before everybody was using Amazon Prime, they could get stuff the next day. I'm waiting 7 to 10 days to get my shoes, right? So there is I want it, I engage in the transaction, there's a waiting period, and then I get it. I go on Amazon, I click Prime, it's here the next day. So you have this weird relationship with like getting things, and
Or
then
you go to the store and you have it when you walk out,
yeah,
right?
that also. But I mean like that sort of anxiousness of like I clicked it, it's mine, I know it's mine, but it's not here and I need it right now, right? That is not, in my opinion, really healthy or conducive to battling loneliness when you then, like you said, talk about genuine friendships. There are people who, if you don't speak to them, immediately every day, answer the text within 30 seconds, like it breeds this anxiety in some people that like, oh, he must not like me. They must not do this. They must do that. They must do this. Think about not to be that guy, but think about like some of the most beautiful pieces of writing that exist. You know what they are? Letters. Ben Franklin, notorious for the love letters he used to write his wife when he was in France on business, right? Those are two people who I am sure, like any couple now, are happily married in love and share that relationship. Days, weeks, months without talking or hearing from each other. And because that was normal, because there wasn't this immediate sense of, well, I can't talk to Ben Franklin every day, so Ben Franklin must be doing X, Y, and Z and this and that. Like, too much connection is a bad thing. Knowing what everybody's doing all the time is a bad thing. It blurs the lines of privacy. It blurs the lines of boundaries that you have to set with friends, because, or anybody, boundaries are healthy. And the internet just kind of pops in the middle, explodes, almost like when you get ice in a car windshield. Like if there's like a little crack and the water gets in and it seeps and it seeps and it seeps and it freezes and then just shatters. It's like you might not realize it, but this little thing, in my opinion, is that crack in the windshield. And the more you play with it, the more water you're pouring on it. And there's gonna come a day where it's gonna freeze. And all those little things that it seeped into is just gonna crack, and it's gonna be a big problem because, as we said from the jump, this isn't real. It's not real life. How do you square that?
Well, no, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's already cracking and sort of expanding before we know it, right? And it's just going to break in on us pretty much any day at this point, relatively speaking. And I think sort of a to your point, and I think a prime example of this, and it's kind of a touchy subject, but it's an important one, is the fact that a lot of these same people are also addicted to pornography, and that is right there and immediate, on your phone, and it's almost like if you can satisfy what is like the most basic urge of humans, right? At like literally 10 seconds. It takes one Google search, if that. And then you have Instagram, which it doesn't even take a Google search. You just got to scroll a little bit, and there's basically scantily clad people all over the place. There's TikTok, which is the same exact thing, right? And Twitter and everything and anything, right? The most basic urge of human relationship, the thing that breeds human relationship, can be done in 10 seconds, right? It's not like back in the day where you would have to maybe sneak into your dad's room and crawl under his bed to find a magazine or something like that, right? And then you only have these, sparing moments with your ability to understand this. Now it's a 8-year-old who has a phone who's getting exposed to this, and it's not healthy and it's not good, and it's completely destroying what breeds connection between people, right? That is where relationships, it's an attractiveness, whether it's an attractiveness to somebody that you feel a physical attraction or an emotional attraction or so on, right? And that urge, that attraction can be fulfilled so easily that I think that is just a huge force in this also. And again, it's all a business. Look at how much money people are making on OnlyFans, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's healthy for anyone involved.
It's I mean, we could talk about this, no joke, probably 3 or 4 hours, because the big point here is all of these things, vis-a-vis the internet and this false sense of connection, breed loneliness. It is these relationships and connections that feel real, that you kind of were taught to justify in your head. It's just as good as the real thing. Sitting down, playing Xbox, and being able to talk to my friends is just as good as going outside and playing a game of basketball with my friends. And it's not. They are not the same thing. They have never been the same thing, and they never will be the same thing. And to your greater point, it is a business. It's a really troubling situation, and I want my piece on it to be that there's so much life to live. There's so many things to see, people to meet. And at the end of the day, it feels great to have a little notification pop up on your Instagram or your Twitter that you got a follower. And it's like, wow, somebody cares about what I have to say, what I post, this and that. You know what feels better? A handshake, a hug, sitting down, sharing a meal with somebody. Those are the things that feel better. And those are the things that, even if it's hard for you, even if it's hard for me some days, that you have to go and you have to put yourself in those situations, those real life situations, and understand that we're all in this together. You're never really as alone as you think. And I know that is like the last thing that somebody who's feeling alone wants to hear. And there's a weird line that you walk when you talk about this issue, but it comes down to, what do you want out of life, and what are you okay with taking? Because everybody can hop online, anybody could build a brand, build a following on the internet. Can anybody walk into a coffee shop, sit down, look at somebody across the room, and spark up a conversation? That's the art of communication and connection that I try and practice. I know you try and practice. Many of my friends in life try to practice. Um, and I wouldn't say we're lonely people. And I'm not saying that, you know, it means anything
Yeah.
tactile, but I think the more you allow yourself to get out in the real world, the more you allow yourself to experience and feel real things, that is like your way of contributing to ending the epidemic of loneliness, which for so many people is so devastating. It gets as bad as people don't want to leave the house. People want to, work from home. Like there's
Yeah,
you're
that's
robbing
all.
yourself of connection and experiences, and you're creating your own bubble in a sheltered life, and someday it's going to burst. And that is when we get situations. Unfortunately, we have a very high suicide rate in this country. Look at a country like Japan. The highest suicide rate in the world, I'm pretty sure, is out of Japan. And what is the other thing that they are? The most technologically advanced, culture out there. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so.
Yeah, I just want to jump in because we're running out of time, and I just wanted to say really quick, um, just a personal anecdote from Stephen and I's relationship is the fact that we probably at this point met. It was like the summer of 2017, so it's at 5 years ago at this point, and for for probably of the 5 years that we've known each other, for four of them, we spent literally every day
Every
together.
day.
I think the longest for a long span of time that we didn't spend together was about a week, up 2 weeks when either one of us were on vacation.
Yeah.
Today, we don't spend that time together, right? Because Steve's in New Jersey, I'm in Pennsylvania, whatever the case may be. But the building block of that relationship, of the fact of the matter is that we, at this point, don't have to be together in the same room. But I'll never feel sort of that sense of loneliness that I don't have a friend, because I know I have all of that equity built up in the
Right.
relationship that Steve and I have. That if I needed to see him or he needed to see me, that would happen. That would be made to happen. But so you don't get that sense of loneliness even when you're alone, because that genuine connection was already built. And
Right.
that's the core of everything. It's you don't have to you could be with a crowd of people or simply by yourself. The only way to not feel alone is to have genuine relationships with people. And building a genuine relationship is being with a person and being present. There are times that Steve and I, over those 4 years that we're together, probably didn't look at our phone once because we were just talking to each other about the most random nonsense possible most of the time. And that doesn't, like, that's just building a relationship. But I want to move on to the next topic, which we'll talk really briefly about. I think is an important one that we get that we'll have more stories in the future about, and that is the housing market. At this point, the housing market, in order for a buyer to have the median price of a house to be able to afford it, they have to make over $100,000 a year. I think the exact number in the Bloomberg article that is linked in the description is $107,281 a year to afford the median price of a house. New Jersey is in the top five for the highest median price of a house. So it's probably even more in the state of New Jersey. And this goes, the Fed was pushing these interest rates, leaving borrowers to cost even more money. You know, you're talking about 7% interest rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage. You're talking about like 7%, that's doubling in 1 year. So, and I think this goes right back to what we were talking about, and I'll let you get into it. It goes right back to loneliness. It goes back to this feeling of not being good enough, because for most people, the most expensive thing that they'll ever purchase is their home. The where they get the most equity is in their home. The where they feel the most good, the responsibility. Well, I'm a homeowner. And now you're creating forever renters, people that will not be able to afford it, because $100,000 is a lot of freaking money, man. And you have these businesses buying up a bunch of properties to make people these forever renters, which plays into it even more. So it's going to play into the mental health crisis, especially the mental health crisis of of our generation, because we it's going to be very difficult for us to save up enough equity to buy a home. So I think that I'll let you briefly talk and say your piece, but this is a story that we're going to be watching, and it's going to have effects in future weeks for sure.
100%. To your point, I think one of the defining moments of anybody's life is when you sort of take that step out of the home, right? Your child in home, and you say, I'm doing this on my own now. And a big part of that is, for a lot of people, I know it could be different circumstantially where people grow up, but my parents and most people my parents' age that I speak to, when they left their home, it was, we'll rent maybe for a year, but that year we're spent looking for a forever home, a place to live. So you step out of this place where you're nurtured, you're a child, you grow up in this home, and then you step out and it's time to start yours. Giving people or preventing people, I guess, the opportunity to be able to do that is damaging. It's does not feel like there's a sense of security. I think that's what a home provides for a lot of people is security. I know that this is mine. It's not somebody else's, and I'm staying here for a little while. This is mine. This is my little slice of the earth, my humble abode. I can do with it as I want. And having that space for anybody is tremendously important. As a kid, it's your bedroom. You want to paint your bedroom different colors and get this and that. And that's the building block of that. So when it's time to graduate from the bedroom to the house, and there's a whole generation of people that can't afford that, you want to talk about a security crisis. Listen, like you said, $100,000 is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. And you're encouraging people to go to school. The generational gap is completely different. So kids are walking out now with debt, can't afford a house. You're not getting a job that's relative to your education. It makes sense why people are lonely. It makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah, for
unfortunately,
sure.
you and I are guys, I know we like to think we have answers for things. I'll tell you, I don't know what the answer is. For me,
It's
I'm putting my head down and doing the best I can.
yeah, it's above our pay grade for sure, but it's an issue and a topic that we'll talk more about in the weeks and I'm sure years to come. So
Yeah.
let's just really quickly wrap up. We had a fun story about the Mr. Beast burger
Yes.
opening up in the American Dream Mall, and he's opening up another spot in Manasquan. So maybe this is a teaser more than anything else. Manasquan's not too far from Seaside, and
Yeah.
so maybe Steve and I will do an on-location shoot and check out the new Mr. Beast Burger, which is opening there. I think that it's going to be done out of the kitchen of Blend on Main in Manasquan. So if you're interested, check it out. But look, we're real close to our time window, so we're going to have
Yeah.
to wrap it up. So I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Steve Romola.
And we will talk to you all next week. And hopefully we'll do soon over break a little on location shoot for the new Mr. Beast Burger. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
See you next week, everyone.